She had always been surrounded by men who tried too hard, men who over-explained themselves, who craved her approval, who did everything to impress her. But then she met him. He didn't chase. He didn't try to prove himself. He was just there, calm, unshaken, and in control. At first, she didn't understand why he stood out. He wasn't the loudest in the room, nor did he shower her with constant compliments. But there was something about him, an aura of mystery, a presence that demanded attention without asking for it. When she tried to test him, pulling away to see if he would react, he remained unaffected. No desperation, no panic, just quiet confidence. It was frustrating at first. Every other man had made her feel like a queen just for existing. But he made her want to earn his attention. She started thinking about him more, wondering what made him so different. Was he truly indifferent, or did he simply understand something most men didn't? That's when she realized. He knew her weaknesses. He understood that mystery intrigued her, leadership commanded her respect, and emotional control made him stand out. He never sought validation, never begged for her affection. Instead, he let her come to him, and she did. This is the power of a stoic man. The man who doesn't chase, doesn't overreact, and doesn't bend to gain approval. Because in the end, the one who controls his emotions controls the game. Now let's break down the 9 weaknesses every woman has and how a smart man uses them. Blast off. Number 1, the power of mystery. She had always been able to read men easily. A few compliments, a little teasing, and they would spill everything. What they wanted, what they feared, how far they would go just to impress her. It was predictable and boring. But then she met him. At first, he didn't seem any different. He was polite, but not overly eager. He listened, but didn't overshare. She tried to gauge his interest, throwing subtle hints, waiting for him to take the bait. But he didn't. He smiled at her words, but his eyes held something she couldn't quite decipher. He was there, yet just out of reach. She found herself wondering about him long after their conversation ended. Who was he really? What was he thinking? Most men couldn't wait to prove themselves, to tell her how amazing they were. But he never tried. One evening they were at the same gathering. She decided to test him. "You're hard to figure out," she said, tilting her head playfully. He simply smirked. "Maybe you're just not asking the right questions." That answer sent a spark through her mind. Most men would have rushed to explain themselves, but not him. For the first time in a long while, she felt the thrill of curiosity. She wanted to know more, to uncover the layers beneath his composed exterior. Days passed, and she found herself thinking about him more than she wanted to. Why was he different? Why did he linger in her mind? Then she realized it was the mystery. Most men tried to win her by being an open book, by revealing too much, too soon. But he understood something powerful, that the unknown is far more enticing than the known. Women are drawn to what they can't fully grasp. The moment a man stops being predictable, he becomes intriguing. And intrigue, that's the seed of attraction. A smart man never lays out his entire story. He lets a woman wonder, question, and chase the answers she craves. Because once she starts thinking about him, he's already won. Number 2, emotional influence. Sophia always believed she was in control of her emotions. She prided herself on her independence, never letting anyone get too close, never allowing her feelings to dictate her decisions. That was until she met Daniel. He wasn't the loudest or the most charming man in the room, but there was something about him, something that made her feel things she couldn't quite explain. It wasn't just what he said, it was how he made her feel. When she was around him, she felt safe, yet challenged. He had a way of listening that made her open up more than she intended to. A simple glance from him could make her question everything she thought she knew. One evening, they sat across from each other at a quiet cafe. She shared a story about a childhood memory, one she had never told anyone before. She wasn't sure why she told him, it just felt right. He listened without interrupting, his eyes focused on hers. When she finished, he smiled slightly and said, "That must have shaped the way you see the world." It wasn't a question, it was a statement, and it was true. In that moment, Sophia realized something. This man had an influence over her, not by force, not by manipulation, but by understanding. He made her feel seen, heard, felt. And the more she felt, the more drawn she was to him. Most men try to impress women with grand gestures, gifts, or words. Smart men? They create an emotional connection. They know that if a woman feels deeply when she's around them, whether it's curiosity, admiration, or even frustration, she will never forget them. Because attraction isn't just about looks or words, it's about how you make her feel. Number 3, the need for leadership. Emma was used to making all the decisions in her life. She was strong, independent, and capable, qualities that had earned her respect in both her career and personal life. Yet deep inside, she longed for something she couldn't quite articulate. Then she met Alex. Unlike most men she had encountered, Alex had an aura of quiet confidence. He never rushed to prove himself, nor did he seek approval. He simply knew who he was and where he was going. One evening, they were out to dinner, and as they looked at the menu, Emma hesitated. "I can't decide between the steak or the salmon," she admitted with a smile. Alex glanced at her and said, "Get the steak. You'll love it." It wasn't demanding, it wasn't controlling, it was just decisive. Surprisingly, Emma felt relieved. She didn't have to think, analyze, or take charge. Just for a moment. It was a small moment, but it meant everything. Later that evening, as they walked through the city streets, a group of rowdy strangers passed by. Emma tensed slightly, but before she could react, Alex gently placed his hand on the small of her back, guiding her toward the opposite sidewalk without a word. She didn't resist. She trusted him. At that moment, she realized something. She didn't want to lead all the time. She could handle life on her own, but having a man who could take charge when needed, who could make her feel secure, make decisions without hesitation, was a feeling she never knew she craved. Women admire men who lead, not with force, but with certainty. A man who knows what he wants, who stands firm in his values, and who guides with strength and calmness is irresistible. Because leadership isn't about control, it's about trust. Number 4, the fear of being ignored. Sophia had always been the center of attention. Since high school, she had mastered the art of drawing people in. Her smile, her charm, the way she spoke with effortless confidence. She never had to chase. Men always came to her. But then she met Daniel. Unlike the others, Daniel didn't fall into her orbit like a helpless star. He didn't flood her phone with messages, didn't compliment her every move, didn't try too hard. In fact, he barely seemed affected by her presence at all. At first, she brushed it off. He's probably just playing hard to get, she thought. But as days turned into weeks, something strange happened. She found herself thinking about him more and more. When she was out with friends, she caught herself glancing at her phone, wondering why he hadn't texted. When she posted a picture, she secretly hoped for his reaction. Yet Daniel remained calm, collected, and completely in control. He was polite, engaging when they spoke, but he never pursued her the way others did. One night, at a mutual friend's gathering, she finally confronted him with a playful smirk. "You're different, you know that?" He raised an eyebrow. "Different how?" She hesitated. "Most guys try so hard to impress me, but you don't seem to care that much." Daniel chuckled, taking a slow sip of his drink. "I don't chase. If someone belongs in my life, they'll be there." Sophia felt a strange mix of frustration and excitement. She wasn't used to this. She had always been the one in control, the one deciding who deserved her attention. But now, she was the one wanting more. That night, as she lay in bed, her mind kept circling back to him. Why wasn't he like the others? Why did his indifference make her want him even more? The truth is, women fear being ignored, especially by the man they secretly desire. When a man doesn't give them instant validation, it creates curiosity, a sense of urgency. And Sophia, she had just stepped into the very trap she never saw coming. Number 5, the attraction to high status. Olivia had always been drawn to confidence. She didn't just want a man, she wanted someone who stood out, someone others respected, someone who had an unshakable presence. At every party, every social gathering, the men who tried too hard were easy to spot. They flashed their wealth, bragged about their accomplishments, and sought her attention like desperate contestants in a game they had already lost. She saw right through them. Then she met Adrian. He wasn't the loudest in the room, nor did he fight for attention. Yet somehow everyone gravitated toward him. At the dinner table, people leaned in when he spoke. When he entered a room, men greeted him with respect, and women took quiet notice. He didn't have to prove his worth, it was just felt. Intrigued, Olivia decided to test him. During their first real conversation, she dropped a subtle challenge. "So what do you do?" she asked, expecting the usual self-promoting monologue. Adrian smirked. "I work on things that matter to me." She tilted her head. "That's vague." He chuckled, unfazed. "Maybe, but you'll figure it out if you stick around." His response caught her off guard. He wasn't desperate to impress her. He wasn't trying to qualify himself. He had already won the game before it even started. That night, Olivia found herself watching him from across the room. Other women had noticed him too, but he wasn't chasing any of them. He was different. He was a man of value. And for the first time in a long time, Olivia felt something unexpected. A pull, a curiosity, a desire to be the one who stood out to him. The lesson: women are naturally drawn to high-status men, not because of money or power, but because of presence. A man who is respected, who moves with quiet confidence, who doesn't seek approval, will always be the one who captivates her. Not by chasing, but by simply being. Number 6, the influence of social proof. Sophia always prided herself on being independent, making her own choices, and not being easily swayed by others. But when it came to attraction, she found herself drawn to something she couldn't quite explain. At a high-end lounge in the city, she noticed Daniel. He wasn't the flashiest guy in the room, nor was he trying to impress anyone. Yet the energy around him was different. The moment he walked in, people acknowledged him. Men shook his hand with respect, women laughed effortlessly in his presence, and the bartender knew his usual drink without asking. Sophia observed quietly. Why was he so magnetic? Curiosity got the best of her. As she casually made her way into his circle, she listened. Unlike most men, Daniel never boasted about his accomplishments. Others did it for him. One man mentioned how Daniel had just closed a major deal. Another woman playfully teased him about always traveling. Even the way people reacted to his words made it clear. He was someone valuable. Sophia had met plenty of successful men before, but none carried themselves like him. It wasn't just what he had, it was how others saw him. The admiration in their voices, the respect in their actions, it all signaled one thing: he was high value. Later that night, when she finally spoke to him, something strange happened. She felt nervous. Her usual confidence wavered. Why? Because social proof had already framed him in her mind as someone worth impressing. He hadn't even done anything yet, but her attraction was already set in motion. The lesson: women are heavily influenced by how others perceive a man. If he is admired, respected, and valued by others, she will naturally feel drawn to him. Social proof does the work before he even speaks. It's not about faking status. It's about becoming the man others respect. When a man has genuine admiration from those around him, attraction follows effortlessly. Number 7, the weakness for emotional highs. Lena had always considered herself level-headed. She valued stability, logic, and control in her life. But when it came to attraction, something deep inside her craved more than just consistency. She craved excitement. That's why she couldn't shake Ethan from her mind. From the moment they met, he was different. He never followed a predictable pattern. One moment, he was teasing her with a playful smirk, making her laugh uncontrollably. The next, he'd lean in close, locking eyes with her in a way that made her heartbeat quicken. Being around him felt like an adventure. One evening, he surprised her with an unplanned rooftop dinner under the stars. It wasn't fancy, just takeout sushi and city lights, but it felt like the most thrilling thing in the world. Another time, when she least expected it, he grabbed her hand and led her onto the dance floor at a small bar, spinning her around while people cheered. Lena wasn't used to this. With other guys, things felt routine, predictable, but with Ethan, she never knew what would happen next. And that unpredictability, it was addicting. Every interaction with him was an emotional high. One moment she was laughing, the next she was captivated by his intense presence. He knew how to spark emotions and keep her engaged, never letting the energy settle into boredom. One night, after an amazing time together, she lay in bed scrolling through her phone. Other guys had texted her, but she ignored them. She was only thinking about Ethan. She didn't realize it, but she was already hooked. Not because he was the most handsome or wealthy man she'd met, but because he made her feel something intense. The lesson: women are drawn to men who take them on an emotional roller coaster, who create highs and unexpected moments of excitement. Predictability feels safe, but excitement feels addictive. A man who understands how to keep emotions flowing, playfulness, intensity, mystery, will always stand out. Because in the end, attraction isn't just about logic. It's about how you make her feel. Number 8. The need for validation. Sophia scrolled through her phone, her fingers hesitating over a text she wanted to send. It had been 2 days since Ryan last messaged her, and the silence was eating away at her. She wasn't sure why. He wasn't the only guy interested in her. In fact, her inbox was filled with messages from other men, all eager to take her out. But Ryan was different. He wasn't constantly chasing her. He wasn't showering her with compliments like the rest. Instead, he had a quiet confidence. When they talked, he made her feel special, not by telling her she was amazing, but by treating her like someone he enjoyed being around, yet didn't need. At first, she thought she had the upper hand, but now after 2 days of silence, she found herself wondering, is he losing interest? Did I say something wrong? Why isn't he reaching out? The uncertainty made her want his attention even more. When Ryan finally texted her later that evening, a simple, "Hey, hope your day's been good," her heart skipped a beat. She replied instantly, trying to sound casual, but in reality she felt relieved. Ryan understood something most men didn't, that validation is powerful when given sparingly. Sophia didn't realize it, but Ryan had subtly made her crave his approval. He didn't chase. He let her come to him. And because he wasn't overly available, his attention felt valuable, something she had to earn. The lesson: women, like everyone, seek validation, but the key is to give it in a way that makes it meaningful. If a man is too eager, his approval loses value. However, if he maintains his own confidence and standards, his validation becomes something a woman wants to win. That's the difference between a man she forgets and a man she can't stop thinking about. Number 9. The desire for challenge. Ela was used to men falling for her easily. From the moment she walked into a room, she could feel the attention shift. Compliments, flirty remarks, and desperate attempts to impress her, it was all too familiar. And frankly, a little boring. Then she met Daniel. Daniel was unlike the others. He didn't shower her with praise or try to win her over. Instead, he seemed completely unbothered by her looks. He was confident, calm, and had a way of making conversations feel effortless, but never predictable. At first, Isla thought he just wasn't interested. But the more they talked, the more she realized something. He wasn't easy to impress, and she liked it. One night, as they sat across from each other at a coffee shop, she playfully teased him. "So, do you always play this hard to get?" Daniel smirked. "Who said I'm playing?" His response caught her off guard. Most guys would have immediately reassured her, afraid of losing her interest. But Daniel, he was a challenge. He made her work for his attention, and it only made her want him more. Suddenly, she was the one overanalyzing texts, wondering what he thought of her. She found herself dressing up just a little more when she knew she'd see him. For the first time in a long time, Isla felt excited, because Daniel wasn't a prize to be handed over. He was a challenge to be earned. The lesson: women are naturally drawn to a man who isn't too easy to win over. When a man values himself and doesn't just give his attention away freely, it creates a sense of mystery and excitement. Being a challenge doesn't mean playing games. It means having standards, living with purpose, and not bending over backward for approval. And that is what makes a man truly unforgettable.